people who grew up in a different socio-economic class as your significant others. What are the notable differences you've noticed and how does it affect your relationship if at all? Finally, a question relevant to my life. I grew up rich. Not private school rich, but once a month, my mum would casually have between $200-500 she would decide to delegate to us going on shopping sprees and it. I never had to worry about anything. My parents didn't live a lavish lifestyle and saved, but we did just as well as my friend's family even though we didn't flaunt it like them. Her dad was a banker and they had like 8 horses and a barn outside with a built-in pool and hot tub plus a whole outdoor grill and a mansion. My boyfriend grew up in the ghetto down south. He used to have to constantly pawn his TVs and amps and mom's jewelry to keep paying the bills, learn to fix cars so they wouldn't be stranded when the car broke down, and lived among what is apparently an insane roach infestation most of their lives. So he and I now have something we call going to the pool. It's when both of us have the same memory, but through different socio-economic eyes. This is also relevant when it comes to how we handle money and react to things. We realized this after both of us were sitting around remembering how much we loved going to the pool, and then had a good laugh about how different the circumstances of the event was. When he was a kid, going to the pool was a huge deal. He would save up to pay for him and his sisters. He walked them and had to watch them the entire time. To him, the pool was a rare thing and a responsibility, but it provided his sisters with a rare luxury, and it was always worth it to him. He loved the pool and considered doing it to be quite special. They didn't do it every day. When I talk about going to the pool, I remember my community's pool having water slides, and always grabbing change for snacks. I remember riding my bike there and it always being fresh and clean. I had a season pass and my mum would always give me cash for whatever I wanted when I went. I pretty much went every single day of the summer unless it was closed. Both of our experiences had joy in them, and neither of our experiences invalidate each other, but we both relate to the memory of going to the pool in a completely different way. That's sort of how we treat everything. In many ways, I think it helps us a lot. We respect how the other grew up, and both of us have gained from seeing things from the other side. It's never caused problems for us, but it does sometimes instigate some really interesting discussion, and helps us understand each other a little bit better. My boyfriend grew up under Jehovah's Witness parents that forbade him from experiencing holidays. It's been incredible watching him get to experience his first Christmas morning, carving pumpkins for Halloween, and all of the other shenanigans that the holidays bring now that he no longer leaves with them or follows their beliefs. I've never seen a 22-year-old squeal in delight at presents under the Christmas tree before. He constantly has a big smile on his face every time we look at holiday decorations and when he tells me about all of the gift ideas he has this year. It's amazing watching somebody experience something for the first time when it seemed like everyday life to me as a kid. JWs and holiday experiences are always such heart-tugging stories. Whether it be squealing excitement or awkward toe dipping, you almost always come out feeling like this was a very special moment and a memory worth holding on to. I've got a born and raised JW neighbor, has never experienced holidays and doesn't really get them. Hasn't truly left the JW though. I think that's more for keeping family versus feeling connected to the religion. After we both experienced a shared extremely rough year, I'd been talking about taking my birthday off at our also shared workplace, expressing my excitement for my birthday and why it's important to me, and he surprised me on my birthday by showing up at my door with a birthday chocolate brick. Like it actually said, "Happy birthday" on the brick with white chocolate balloons and confetti design. There was no missing it. This was definitely a birthday chocolate brick. His response was, "I don't know if this is how you do it, but I got you a chocolate bar." It took everything in me to not make the situation more awkward for him by dropping tears. It was and still is the best gift I've ever received, because it meant going against everything his religion has pushed on him for 60 years and overcoming the fear of what his family would say or do if they knew. I don't know many people with the courage or care to do what he did over something so seemingly unimportant on the surface. My perspective is weird. When I was a kid, my family went through bankruptcy due to medical debt after my siblings all died. We were homeless for a bit. Middle school was rough while my parents struggled to pull things together and my mum gave birth to my little sister. When I graduated high school my parents were doing well enough to pay for my private university education in cash, and my little sister's private high school was more expensive. I've lived at both extremes of income, but not in the middle. My husband grew up with a dad in the military and a mum who was a teacher. They were pretty solidly middle class. It's odd the different things that trip us up. I find that when I really want something I have to stop and take a breath and calm down when I realize that we can afford it. When I was a kid I owned 2 pairs of pants that I wore to school and washed by hand every other night. As an adult I tend to find excuses to wear dress pants or nice shirts. I also keep $20 and a large candy bar in my purse at almost all times. I just like the security of knowing that there's something there if I need it. I'm never going to be hungry because I can't afford to eat or trapped because I can't afford a bus. I think my husband has a much healthier relationship with money than I do. He's calmer about saving and uses it like a tool. I think he doesn't always understand some of my hang-ups about it though. I find myself asking permission for things we can obviously afford. I'll admit it's difficult to understand when he meets my parents now and they're heading off on their 4th or 5th overseas honeymoon, or when my mum spent almost as much as my husband's parents make in a year on our wedding, because she didn't like my idea of a small reception at the house or in the park. That's not how I grew up, but it's all my husband sees when he interacts with my family. It's a lot of culture shock for both of us. After my siblings all died. Oh dear. Me upper middle class. Her hillbilly farm town. She had a lot of stuff I never saw like, live animals, not zoo. She had a pet fox, and all these cool homemade items. I introduced her to big city life and I took her to Broadway. She took me to her county fair. It's nice. It's nice people can appreciate both sides of the country versus city like that smiley face. So I'm dating a guy who used to live in rural Oregon in a very small town. I've always lived between Baltimore and DC. He has made me explore the cities like I've never done before while I'm the one showing him the areas in the West like Appalachians and old Civil War battlefields. It is pretty cool to experience the different cultures, but you'd think I'd be the one showing him the cities. It is pretty cool to experience the different cultures, but you'd think I'd be the one showing him the cities. I've lived in Iceland all my life. Loathe it. I hate the provincialism, the isolation, the twisted conservative bent overlaid by a veneer of liberal self-righteousness, and above all I hate the suffocating familiarity of everything around me. Got to show a tourist the country once and it was just wonderful. All those things I was used to seeing and knowing came to life in her eyes. The natural splendor I was so used to became a panorama of rugged beauty. The sagas that to me were spiteful farmers throwing rocks at each other became exotic tales of Viking bloodletting. The sighs that I had chafed against all my life became safe and comforting. It can be hard to appreciate or even truly see something you're so used to. Then 2008 happened and I hate it again. I would gleefully drown half of our parliament in a shallow puddle. Your writing is amazing. I grew up on food stamps and the free lunch program. My boyfriend's parents are quite literally part of the 1%. There are moments. Gifts from his parents are always well thought out high quality essentials, while my family does what they can. I got to stay home while they took him to Hawaii a few years ago equals. It's embarrassing at family dinners sometimes when his mum makes amazing roasted vegetables and I prefer the canned version, because it's the only veggies I ever ate as a kid. He got to play instruments in school. I really wanted to be in band, but we couldn't afford a trumpet. There are a lot of little things, too. I had to do a lot of rapid learning once I got to college, because good spending habits, organization, productivity, etc. don't just appear out of nowhere. Tidbit I just thought of, there are also a handful of hobbies, activities that only happen with money: scuba, equestrianism, skiing, climbing, spelunking, water sports, even cycling. Hard to have experience with those as a kid unless your family has the money for it, and I personally do not deal well with the envy of opportunities I never had. Kind of opposite situation with me. My parents are part of the less than 1%. They own properties in Hawaii, and when my husband and I were dated for 8 years and then married, now going on 3 years, I went with my parents every year and he stayed. He came with about 2 years ago and had an amazing time. It has been fun for me seeing him discover things I had previously taken for granted. Travel, food, activities. For the first time. He is from WV and is one of 5 boys and grew up poor. His dad was killed when he was young, so he's never expected anything he has had or has been given. I have also learned a lot about the farm way of life and living off of the land from his family. My sister's husband has a hard time saying thank you and expects a lot from my parents. He never really seems grateful, and he has also never had to work hard for anything he has. My parents have worked hard for everything. Both come from working class families of 6. So they have always expected us to earn our own way. My parents love doing things for my husband. They love taking him on vacation as he shows his gratitude freely and unprovoked. They love his enthusiasm for experiencing new things in life, which was one of the things that made me fall in love with him.